Shifting focus to more news coming in, two men who were convicted in a plot to assassinate Iranian-American journalist Masih Alinejad earlier this year are now facing sentencing in New York. The final sentencing is taking place at the Manhattan Federal Court. Now, prosecutors have stated that the plan to kill Alinejad at her Brooklyn residence had come alarmingly close to success, and that is why they're seeking a 55-year prison term for Rafat Amirov and Polat Omarov, both of whom are reportedly linked to the Russian mob. Amirov is an Iranian national, while Omarov comes from Georgia. They were found guilty in March earlier this year following a 2-week trial that included testimony from a hired gunman and from Alinejad herself. Additionally, prosecutors have claimed that the two men acted under the direction of Iranian officials who on an earlier occasion had offered a large sum for her assassination. It is important to note that Masih has been a long-term prominent critic of the regime in Tehran and is well known for leading campaigns urging women in Iran to defy mandatory head covering rules. With us on the broadcast is Professor Veselin Popovsky. He's a professor and the Vice Dean at Jindal Global Law School. Thank you so much for taking out time and joining us on the broadcast. Prosecutors are seeking a 55-year sentence. In your assessment in this particular case, is this proportional to what has finally transpired? Because the plot was nearly close to succeeding, but it did not succeed.
Well, exactly. It depends on the criminal procedure and criminal code of each state. And for that matter, the case for the prosecution is that the assassination plot came very close. She could have been killed and dead by now, which is effectively a murder case. And it's a deliberate. It's basically planned and executed assassination attempt. The fact that she didn't die is immaterial. It's the planning and the execution what matters. So that's the case for the prosecution. But on another hand, obviously, the defense lawyers will stress that the assassination didn't happen as such and will ask for more mitigated sentence. As I understand, for Umarov, it is the defense lawyers are trying to reduce the sentence to 13 years, and for the Omirov to 10 years. So it's curious to see. Actually, your question is very good, Pia, because this will it's a big discrepancy between what the prosecution asked, 55 years, and what the defense lawyers asked, 13 or 10 years. So it could be somewhere between in my guess here. It will be a long sentence, but I don't think the judges will go as far as to 55.
Indeed, and prosecutors have also claimed that both men acted under the direction of Iranian officials who allegedly offered a large sum of money. How do you think the court would then view this? Would it simply be criminal conspiracy, or would it be a conspiracy with a foreign state sponsor being factored?
Yes, you're absolutely right. There is basically an offer of $500,000 for assassination by the Iranian government. So the Iranian government is directly involved in here, although, of course, the prosecution is against the two individuals. Behind that stands the Iranian government, which ordered the killing itself because of the very prominent role which Masih Alinejad did. She's a very strong human rights campaigner, women's rights activist. She invited, in fact, many Iranian women to make selfie videos with their hairs, which is prohibited in Iran, and somehow to express protests against the very radical laws against women in Iran. So her campaign was successful over videos and over social media. And that's what infuriated the Iranian government. And that's why they issued that bounty on her assassination, which is quite significant. And those two mobsters, and there are very many gangsters, and like the two indicted and now to be sentenced assassins. Effectively, yes, this is a very interesting case exactly because behind this is a government that offers a lot of money, $500,000 for those two murderers to commit the crime. They couldn't succeed, fortunately. She is alive, as I said, but the prosecution goes on and they will demand, and that's probably, you are right, it could be seen as an aggravated circumstances here because she is a prominent human rights activist and the government is ordering her killing.
Indeed, and considering the fact that prosecutors are alleging that the two men followed orders from Iranian officials, from a legal standpoint, would this then mean that they were simply mitigating, as in following the orders that were given, or aggravating, thereby implying complicity if they are found guilty?
I will think the prosecution is arguing for aggravating circumstances, and effectively it further proves that here we have a conspiracy from a government, the Iranian government, which I wouldn't take as mitigating circumstances whatsoever. The only mitigating circumstances is the attempt was not successful, which is the defense case. Otherwise, the fact that an Iranian government is ordering the case is actually an aggravating circumstance because it clearly shows that behind that is political motivation, a large amount of money ordered, and the sentence should reflect all of this. It should send the message, the signal that this is absolutely unacceptable whatsoever. Governments should never do that. And this could be like a flagship case to indicate with the sentence. We still need to see what it will exactly be, but I expect a long sentence so that, the aggravations comes from the fact that this is an ordered by a foreign government assassination. So those two individuals have absolutely no excuse whatsoever here.
Indeed, and moving away from the legal standpoint towards the more ethical, more moral standpoint, Ms. Alinejad did in fact campaign for women's rights, championing women's issues, particularly in Iran, from the soil of the United States of America, and this attempt was made against her life. These two accused reportedly have ties to the Russian mob as well. And the US, as we know, is very big on free speech, free expression. What do you make of this fresh angle regarding the involvement of the Russian mob in this particular case?
Yes, well, the countries that violate human rights are those like Iran and Russia, whereas the opposite, the United States is a country of freedom of expression. And you're right that this kind of signals here that in some countries a behavior like what she did will be acceptable and purely normal. Freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of speech. These are very protected values and norms and rights in the democracies like United States and European countries and India and Japan and everywhere else. But in minority countries such as Iran and Russia, those are violated daily by the governments. And yes, it signals also that there are a lot of Russian mobs all over the world, and Russia is effectively sponsoring them. I wouldn't be surprised if the Russian government, and not only the Iranian government, is behind that, because one of the purposes of the Russian government is also constantly to inflict damage, to create chaos and disruption in Western democracies. And absolutely not surprising that the two accused are members of a Russian mob, acting on the order of an Iranian government. So the message here is that, yes, states in the world and their law enforcement agencies should get united in information sharing, in intelligence sharing, and in protecting their citizens. And this Iranian activist is a citizen, global citizen, living in Brooklyn, in New York, but she should be protected, and everybody should be protected against such violations and attempts to kill them. So yes, very interesting case. You're absolutely right. Let's see what happens.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time sharing your analysis with us as far as this case is concerned. Meanwhile, we're shifting focus to what's happening in Syria. We're now learning that Syrian state media has reported that a series of security incidents, including a grenade blast and mortar fire, have struck coastal and southern regions of Syria. According to reports, an explosion has hit the Kneinis neighborhood in the coastal province of Latakia after an assailant threw a hand grenade near a police station. Authorities say that security forces have swiftly contained the situation, adding that there are no reported casualties. Meanwhile, the attacker has reportedly been captured and authorities have opened an investigation into the attempted assault. Now, in the southern province of Sweda, armed groups have meanwhile fired mortar shells and machine guns at a security checkpoint in the village of Al Matona. While no casualties have been reported, the attack has heightened concerns over renewed instability in the province, which has witnessed sporadic armed clashes since July. Remember earlier, 2 people were killed and several others were wounded when a passenger bus came under gunfire from unknown assailants at a fuel station along the Damascus-Sweda highway. Well, viewers, that's a wrap on Gulf today. We will